Imagine living in a country where raising your voice against the violence inside your own home is no longer your right. Where the law does not protect you but protects the abuser. Recently, reports from Afghanistan under the rule of the Taliban have once again shocked the world. Over the past few years, restrictions on women's rights have intensified. From banning girls' education to limiting their movement and public presence. Now concerns are growing that legal protections against domestic abuse have been severely weakened or removed altogether. Now what does this mean for dignity, safety and freedom of women? Is this governance or control? Is this culture or coercion? In today's video, we are going to examine what has been happening in Afghanistan with regards to ending the legal right of domestic violence against women inside the homes, and why it is relevant in 21st century as far as human rights are concerned, and why a group which is a religious extremist group become horrible and terrible for the lives of women in any country it exists. In this case, it is Taliban, an Islamic radicalist group. The new law of Afghanistan has changed the definition of domestic violence. In their national language, they define domestic violence as the violence committed by husband on wives if, only if, the bones of wife have been broken or there are several wounds in her body. Which means if the bone is not broken, if any bone is not broken, if there are no great wounds in the body, whether you slap your wife or you do anything with your wife, it can be marital rape, it can be severe injury where the wounds are not visible, where the bone has not been broken. These are not domestic violence. Now you see that this law will make women slaves. Slave of whom? Of their husbands. Secondly, the burden to prove domestic violence is on the shoulder of women. Now they have to go to the court and tell the court that I am a victim of domestic violence, and then they need to prove it. Now you may say that okay, this is a right available for women, but no, wait. In Afghanistan, you know the kind of medical facility they have. So the medical examinations are going to be very, very pathetic, right? Unless and until there is a genuine medical examination, no women in Afghanistan is going to prove that they have been a victim of domestic violence inside their houses. Even if in some cases, in rarest of the rare cases, the medical examination came out to be very, very genuine, and women is able to prove that the broken bone or the great or the severe wound in her body is because of the domestic violence, the judge holds the judgment unless and until the woman shows that part of the body where the wound or the broken bone exists, irrespective of the wound being present in her private parts. That part has to be exposed before the judge. When this wound or when this body part has to be exposed before the judge, her husband or a male member will be present with her. Now you see, can a woman who has been hurt in her private parts will go to a judge and show her private parts demanding justice for her, that I am a victim of domestic violence? No. Now you consider that in rarest of the rare case, a woman hungry for justice goes to the court and proves that she is a victim of domestic violence. She shows the wound in her body. The medical examination proves that she is a victim of domestic violence. What is going to happen with the one who is the main accused? That husband will be imprisoned only for 15 days. Only for 15 days. Now, after 15 days, when the husband returns to home, what's going to happen? There will be new ways of, beating women where the wound is not visible, where a bone is not broken. Now, contrast to this. If a woman visits any of her relatives without the permission of her husband, she will be imprisoned up to 3 months. Now, looking at the minimum provisions I am telling you about this amendment, this new law, you are shocked and you may be very, very angry. But this is the reality. the reality which every extremist religious group brings it with themselves. Any religious extremist groups. You go to the history. In Middle Ages, you find that Christian women were confined to their homes, their houses. They're not allowed to come out. Parda system was forced on them. There were many women who were killed because they were thought to be a witch. So we call in academic discourse witch hunting.
Burn the witch! Burn the witch!
And there were no men who were considered to be a witch, which we call in Hindi Dayan. Now when you visit the ancient India or the start of medieval India, I am referring to later Gupta period, where Gupta period started to disintegrate. Gupta period is considered to be the golden period of in Indian classical history. But when it started to disintegrate, social evils against women increased many folds. We find first instance of sati in Iran inscription of Madhya Pradesh, Iran, ERAN, around 510 AD. Then there are multiple inscriptions which reflects or which depicts the instances of sati, such as Nepal inscription around 400 AD. Then you go to Bolangir, Odisha, Daitan village inscription. Then you go to Lohawat, Rajasthan around 1685. The inscription was built. So if sati existed, a whole lot of social evils against women existed. Sati is the worst form of evil against women. Now come to Sultanate period. In 13th century and 14th century, Hindu women were sold as slaves to the market of Persia. In the market of Persia, who were the buyers? Ulmas, Ashrafs, who were Islamic scholars, they were the buyers. Now they bought women, they exploited their bodies, and they threw them. To justify it, they used to say that this is the right God has given to them to do so. All these have been done in the name of religion. Okay, forget ancient era, forget medieval era. You may be saying, "Abhi thodi na aisa hota hai." I'll tell you. When you go to villages, you find, I'm giving you the example of Muslim society, and I'll come to Hindu society and so on and so forth. In Islamic society, in a Muslim society, a woman is still asked to follow parda system. Now, what is this parda system? You don't have to show your face to somebody who is a stranger to you. You should always have that pallu so that any inch of your hair is not visible to any stranger coming in before you or in front of you. They're forced to. And after a certain period of time, a woman thinks that it is their choice to follow the parda system because their individual identity mixes with the social identity. They are unable to analyze it critically that this parda system was a part of Saudi Arabia, which is a geographical entity, not a religious entity. They are not critical about it. And that is why their individual identity mixes it with the social identity. Now, my question is why a woman is not allowed to wear what they want? Why she is not allowed to go wherever they want to? Why they are not allowed to make careers in few streams where they are good at? 20 years back in Islam, it was said that clicking pictures make God angry. Then after 2010, I used to hear that walking pictures or the videos, watching any kind of videos makes the God angry. Okay. Now the same people who were preaching this are now making YouTube videos, sitting before the camera, taking many retakes. Now, I'm very saddened to see when any women raises slogans like Brahmanwad Zindabad. Because in Manusmriti, it is clearly mentioned that a woman is always dependent on a male. When she is a child, she is dependent on her father. When she is young, she must be dependent on her husband. When she is old, she is dependent on her sons. A woman is never free in her life. And if there exists a free woman, she is chaste by nature, she is there to lure men, and she is a characterless woman. So you see, in history, people fought against the existing evils in the country. Raja Ram Mohan Rai fought against sati. Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar gave his whole life to fight against the existing ban on widow remarriage. So he was the proponent of widow remarriage thing. Then there were three waves of feminism in the world. We witnessed it in 1970s. So, my point of concern is any religious extremist group, if it runs the government, it makes women slave. A woman is completely slave for them and an object of enjoyment for them. Back then in 2021, when the Kabul fell into the hands of Taliban, women were one of the strongest proponents of supporters of Taliban, and they wanted Taliban to restore rights for women and capture the governance. Now, when a woman supports any religious extremist group, it is just like a woman burning her own library, because any religious extremist group cannot give you any right. Even if when you are enjoying multiple rights, they are going to snatch all of your rights and make you slave of the male population of your country. That is one thing you must remember your whole life. This is for all the women who are watching this video. Please remember that never support any religious extremist group. Any religious extremist group.